Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down two different storms that'll bring the potential for snowfall in the United States over the next 5 days, the first of which will go through the Midwest, the Great Lakes region in the Northeast, and this will bring several inches of snowfall. And the second storm will ride through areas in the Central Plains, back into the Ohio Valley, and into the Mid-Atlantic region, where a few inches of snowfall will be possible. We'll also be talking about the threat of a cold blast this weekend that'll impact millions across the country. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, and let's begin first with what's happening across the United States right now. And we will begin with the central and northern plains, and this is actually where the first of two storms are right now that'll be bringing some snowfall. We've already been watching over an inch of snowfall per hour back up in parts of like eastern Nebraska and eastern South Dakota. This particular storm, though, is going to continue to ride to the east over the next 12 to 24 hours, and believe it or not, it's actually going to intensify a little bit, which will bring some heavier snowfall to areas in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, and as well as even areas in the Great Lakes tonight into tomorrow morning. And that'll be something to watch for pretty closely as it moves that direction. We'll have a full detailed breakdown on that here in just a minute. Back over on the east coast of the United States, very dry right now. That bomb cyclone, by the way, that impacted areas in the Northeast yesterday with several inches of snowfall, many areas getting near a foot of snow. That pressure went from about 1,000 millibars back over in areas near Kentucky and Tennessee, and over a 48-hour period, the pressure dropped by over 40 millibars. That is just insane. It actually went down to near 955 millibars as of early this afternoon. So really crazy stuff overall, and again, that's really intense. 955 millibars is like the intensity of like a category 3 or 4 hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, but in this sense, obviously, we're in the winter. It's not a hurricane, but it's still bringing a lot of impacts in terms of snowfall and even some high winds offshore now. Back over on the west coast, pretty quiet for the most part in Southern California, which they got dumped on with rain about a week ago. Now we're still watching for a new storm to enter into parts of the Pacific Northwest. This will bring some heavy rainfall over the next 24 to 48 hours. All right, let's talk more about the weather that's upcoming over the next few days in terms of the two different snow events that we'll be seeing, in addition to any other crazy weather activity that we'll be observing over the next 10 to 14 days. Beginning with tonight, that snow event again will ramp up in parts of the Midwest as well as the northern plains. Moderate to heavy snowfall possible overnight tonight into areas like Wisconsin and even southern Wisconsin near the Chicago suburbs. Again, a very detailed breakdown on this will be coming up here in about a minute or so. Once we go into tomorrow morning, that snow moves into the Great Lakes region. It should clip areas in northern Ohio. Overall, it'll be very minimal snowfall activity, even if you see any. Once we go into Thursday afternoon and evening, that snow will move into the Northeast United States, but keep a close eye back over in the Central Plains, because our next storm system will move into the Central Plains as we go into Thursday night, and that will be our next snow opportunity for areas in the Central and Northern Plains, the Ohio Valley, perhaps even parts of the Midwest, and back through areas in the Mid-Atlantic region. By Friday morning, snow moving into the Northeast, most of it staying light, not nearly as bad as what we saw yesterday. Once we go into Friday morning, this area of snow will swiftly move off to the east, and you can shake off the snow if you're back up in areas in the Midwest, because overall, most of the snow will stay down in areas like southern Illinois. Once we go throughout Friday afternoon and evening, that snow will move into Kentucky, southern Ohio, southern Indiana. Most of it will stay light to moderate, and by the time we go into Saturday, that snow will move into areas like Virginia and as well as Pennsylvania, and eventually as we go into late Saturday into Sunday morning, that system moves off down into the Atlantic Ocean. And also, I do want to point out that Texas and Oklahoma, you really have no shot of snow over the next 7 to 10 days. I just want to throw that out there. Overall, cruel summer is going to be ahead there. If you're back down that direction, it's just going to be a hot summer, it looks like, with how the temperatures are going right now. By the time we go into Sunday into Monday, things are still staying pretty quiet across the United States. And I do think overall the weather pattern next week across most of the country is relatively quiet. I think they'll have a high pressure system building in the United States, and that will lead to much warmer weather than average for this time of the year. Now let's go more in depth with these two different snow events, beginning with the Midwest tonight. Overall, snow is going to stay back over in southern Minnesota all the way through about sunset or so. Once we go closer to around 10 to 11 o'clock tonight, that snow is moving into northern Wisconsin, southeast Minnesota. Some pockets of moderate to heavy snowfall will be possible. Once we go into late tonight into the overnight hours, that snow will pick up in intensity across parts of central and southern Wisconsin, and even back into northern Michigan. Notice there will be some snow there as we go overnight tonight. By sunrise tomorrow, notice mostly just rain if you're in the Chicago suburbs, but if you're just north of there in southern Wisconsin, you have a bit better of a chance there of some heavy snowfall, but we're going to be very close to freezing. If not, we might just be a hair above it. That means that most of the snow snow that accumulates will be on grassy and elevated surfaces. The roadways should be okay. Once we get closer to around 7 to 8 in the morning tomorrow, that snow pushes into parts of eastern Michigan. A lot of that, again, staying relatively moderate to heavy. And by around lunchtime tomorrow, we're almost done with snow. The only snow left behind will be lake effect snow across the upper Michigan Peninsula into northern Michigan. Then our next chance of snow will happen late Thursday night into Friday morning. Notice around 2 a.m. as we go into Friday, we'll be watching for some light snow across parts of the Midwest. This includes areas near the Chicago suburbs, by the way. Maybe a little dabble of snow there, not much though overall. Once we get closer to sunrise Friday, we'll be watching for some light to moderate snow across areas near St. Louis, back into central and northern Illinois. By the time we go later into the afternoon, that snow will start to shift down to the south and east, eventually moving into areas like Kentucky and as well as eventually into the mid-Atlantic region. In terms of snowfall accumulation tonight through tomorrow, many areas will actually see pretty good amount of snowfall. We're talking 2 to 4 inches in a widespread sense of things. A few isolated locations in particular, we'd be talking about like eastern Wisconsin and southeast parts of Wisconsin. A better shot there for an isolated 5 to 6 inch amount of snow. And then back over into Michigan, we'll be talking about again a widespread 2 to 4 inches of snow. A few pockets though could see as much as 6 to 7 inches of snowfall when this event is all said and done. Wouldn't rule out an isolated spot near 8 inches of snow in addition to that lake effect snow. And eventually as we go into Friday morning, additional coating to 2 inches of snow will be possible, with the heaviest bands of snow all the way through areas in Indiana as well as southern Illinois. This computer model doesn't go far out enough to show that there's a potential down here, but yes, you'll be seeing somewhere in the ballpark of a coating to 2 inches of snow with that particular event. But keep in mind, most of that snow will stay relatively scattered in a sense, so not everybody will see snowfall, but a vast majority of you will see snow. Now going to the Ohio Valley and the lower Midwest Friday morning, notice light snow again impacting areas near St. Louis and central and southern Illinois. This moves into central and southern Indiana as we go into the early to mid-afternoon hours. Eventually it'll move out as we go closer to sunset. Notice again light to moderate snow across Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia. And eventually as we go into late Friday night into Saturday morning, all that snow clears out, and we actually could be talking about some heavy snowfall back over in areas like Virginia. In terms of total snowfall accumulation, many areas again between a coating to 2 inches, nothing really to write home about, but at least you get something. And then further out to the east, there's a better shot back over in areas like Virginia of some more meaningful snowfall. Upwards of 2 to 4 inches of snow will be possible there. More detailed forecasts on this tomorrow, so stay tuned and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Now, in terms of temperatures behind this particular disturbance, we do have a couple of different cold blasts coming, the first of which will be going into late Thursday night to Friday morning. Some cold air will come on the backside of that little snow disturbance back over in the Great Lakes region. Really not much though. The more interesting event will be going into late Friday into Saturday morning. This will be a lot of cold air as we go into late Friday into Saturday. Notice that cold air really ushers into areas in the Midwest, the Central Plains, and back into the Ohio Valley. But notice behind this, we have all this warm air back up in Canada, and that's going to really push this cold air out of the United States very quickly. So this is going to sit around for perhaps 48 to 72 hours, and then we're done with it as we go into Sunday. Eventually by early next week, above average temperatures will return to much of the United States. So what does this mean for wind chills? Well, Friday morning, very cold across the northern plains, sub-zero in many areas. Notice in Canada, that's where actually the Arctic air mass is going to reside. Many areas around 50 to 60 degrees below zero. Eventually, as we go into Saturday morning, those wind chills will leak into parts of southern Canada, but in the United States, we probably will not get that cold. I think many areas will be near sub-zero, but I don't think we'll drop below it. Actual temperatures in the United States, notice a few areas in the northern plains below zero. Once we go into Saturday morning, that'll probably be the coldest morning of the week for most of the United States at least. Notice many areas around the teens and single digits back up in the Midwest, and as well as areas in the Great Lakes region. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already. And by the way, if you notice the Taylor Swift references, make sure to leave those in the comments below.